Checking the connection. Hi. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. There's Tom York's wife again. How are you guys? It is Thursday, March the 18th. Yesterday was St. Patrick's Day. And today is the day after St. Patrick's Day. It's the 18th of March. And next week, the end of next week, the clocks go forward in this country, which is always a beautiful moment. It means that we are officially out of the winter. And it's been quite a winter, right? I don't know really what to say. I'm just going to wait. A couple of minutes, so let you all come in, and then hopefully Nadine will be there. Who's here? Our clocks went forward already. Okay. Is that in America? We went forward last Sunday. Okay. We'll have the we'll have the clocks forward discussion. When did your clocks go forward? Well, mine are going forward. And yeah, this has been nutty. Hi from Wisconsin. We've got someone from Wisconsin. My birthday is on St. Patrick's Day. Hi guys. Hi, love from France, Switzerland. Yeah. We're about to celebrate Nowruz in Iran. Wow, okay. I don't know what Nowruz is. I would love to know what Nowruz is. In fact, I would love to be in Iran celebrating Nowruz, because I'm sure it would be I'm sure it would be a really interesting. Listen, I've got a bit of a thing about Persian culture and food and art and that part of the world. I've never been, but I really want to go. Okay, I'm rabbiting on, talking to myself not like a madman, but I'll see if Nadine's there. Okay, right. Here we go. There we go. Nadine's right there. Phew. Here she comes. Hi!
Hello, buddy.
Hello, my friends.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm surviving with the spirit intact.
Well done. I mean, how's it been? Because it's been tough, right?
Just a bit.
Oh,
Just a bit. I mean, it's always, isn't it weird? Whenever you speak to a friend now, you're like, because in the past you go, "Hey, how are you?" The tag questions.
yeah.
Like, "Hey, how are you?" "Yes, fine. How are you?" And then now it's, "Hey, how are you?" And people are just like, "You want to know the truth?" And then now people
I
are
know.
starting to ask the truth. They're like, "Well,
Yeah.
actually," and it's a really loaded question as well, isn't it? But
It's
just
it's kind of good though. I mean, it kind of gets us out of it, because we always go, yeah, I'm okay. And I had that today. I spoke to an old friend today, and I hadn't spoken to for a long time. I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And then within 10 minutes, we're like, I've been really fucking shit.
I'm really bad.
I'm really bad. Yeah. I started drinking after 20 years, that kind of thing. It's
Oh,
it's
God.
like it's yeah, and it's I think it's important. You know, I'm sure you're the same, but we grew up like never ever being allowed to say what we really felt. You know, it was always, darling, you're fine. And theoretically we were fine. It wasn't like we starved or something, but the kind of that there was no emotional, there was no emotional space to say, actually, mummy, I'm not feeling. I really hate school, and they're taking the piss out of me because my ears are so big, and they're calling me. And it was all like, no, your parents knew none of this stuff, right?
No, no. But I mean, I think that's I'm not saying it's one of the things that I like, but I find that friends are opening up a lot more and the
Yeah,
dialogue is changing. And
Yeah.
if there's one or if there's a few good things to come out of this awful, bloody awful time, maybe, you know, I've noticed even myself doing this with friends, but everyone looking out for each other a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like that checking in, just that
Yeah.
little text now and again, are you all right?
Yeah.
Or somebody, like one of my friends, she just sends me like daft cat videos or a daft meme, you know, something, but just
Yeah.
now and again she got, because also a bunch of us, I've got it bad at the minute. Even I was very nervous tonight. I was thinking, oh. Whereas the
Yeah.
last time we spoke, I was
I
excited to
know.
see you, of course, dead excited to see you. But also because it's been,
Yeah.
I worry about how I even string sentences together these days. I get, you know, and I've noticed with loads of my friends, we're talking about this kind of bubbling anxiety where we're like, how do you talk to people again? I can't remember.
Yeah. It's like for me, it's, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And it's like the normal vitality that one has completely fucking disappeared. I mean, that for me was the big thing about this time was, I mean, you know, when we hooked up last time, I didn't realize, but I was in a hole. I was in massive denial. And then because I think that whole thing of no distractions, and you know, there were no, you know, I'm probably like yourself. I've been so busy for about 6 years and I haven't stopped, like you would be as well, right? And when you stop, the shit rises to the surface, and it's like it. You, I think I'm actually really thankful for this moment because I've needed to sort my shit out. I mean, I lots of old stuff, childhood stuff through, you know, all this stuff that I sort of buried away, and the pandemic. It's just, and I think it's interesting because I think that's what's happening in the world and has been happening for about 3 or 4 years. It's what's happening. Look what's happened with the response in our country to the murder of Sarah Everard, right?
I mean, that's still sitting really, really heavy with me right now. And I don't really know how to talk about it properly. I got this message, right? So I'd read in the news about War Sarah, and I was thinking, oh, I want her to turn up. She's going to turn up. She's going to turn up. Terrified for the worst kind of news. And then I got this message out the blue. This lad I used to go to school with, a lovely, lovely lad. Just one of the, honestly, if he was your son, you'd be so bloody proud. He's one of those kind of lads. Just a good one, a really bloody good one. And he sent me a message on Twitter, like a DM, saying, I know we haven't spoken for years and years and years, but my very good friend has gone missing. And it was Sarah. And I
No.
think, you know, I was already disturbed that a young woman has gone missing and what on earth's happened to her. But then it's like, oh, what? And then you're like, oh, and she was really good friends with him. And you start picturing her life and putting the pieces together. And you're just like, this is a real person. This has
Yeah.
happened to one. And it starts to feel more realistic. Like it's a friend of a friend. It could have been another friend of a friend. It could be my friend. It could be me. And the response, do you ever have that thing, right, where it's like, how do I describe it? Like activism fatigue,
Yeah.
where
For,
it's just, I was shouting and shouting and shouting, and I tend to shout quite loudly about a few things. And I saw the response, what happened at her vigil, the disgusting, inappropriate, rank response
yeah.
to what happened. And I don't want to tweet. I don't want to say anything. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm past anger and feeling like proper desperation, and I'm baffled by it all. And I can feel this bubbling up around us as well. And people have already had so much frustration in the past year, and what's going to come of all this, I don't know. But I've actually felt really affected by all this that's gone on recently. Like I know so many hundreds of thousands of people will have been, and my heart just goes out to her family and her friends. It's just,
Yeah. But
yeah.
I totally, I mean, obviously, you know, I totally agree with you. My heart goes out to women on this because I think that the conversations in our household have been, and listen, it's like I've wanted to somehow express how I felt about this on social media, but there's no way of expressing it that it's like it's too much. It's like it's too much to deal with on this little thing. But the conversations I've been having, like with Susan, my wife, she's been like, you know, and there was an article, a brilliant article by Marina Hyde in The Guardian on Saturday, and how often, how commonplace it is for women to be harassed by men. And I mean, you know, this is why I kind of wanted to, obviously don't want to bring stuff up that you've experienced, but I felt it's really important to, you know, connect with. It's, you know, Susan was actually she's been banging on about it for a long time. She said, here's the interesting thing. You get harassed from the age of 12, and then the moment you turn 44, it all stops. But she said, you know, our daughter Una is now, she's 15, so she's coming into that thing. And I just, you know, it's so important that this comes up now. It's so important. I think it's like another thing. It's like another big reveal of something that has to change. And the way that, you know, men have to be talking to other men. Men have to stop doing this. You know, one of Una's friends, her dad has got a building firm, and 2 weeks ago he was telling the girls, he said, right, I called in everyone and I said, if anybody catcalls, does anything like that, instant dismissal, zero tolerance. You know, it's brilliant. Just, you know, and it's important. Like, I feel like I mean, I'm lucky because our son Sal is a very sensitive, you know, he's a boy, but he's a good lad. So I know he understands, but it's important to have these it feels like, I mean, it's interesting because I think it's happening in this country, in Australia. So for those of you who are around the world, this is what's really this extraordinary week last week where, you know, her body was discovered. It was International Women's Day and it was Mother's Sunday. All this stuff came together and it really shone a light on, again, male aggression towards females. And it's thank God this is happening. I mean, thank God a light is being shone on this, because, you know, this is where we start unpicking it and you know, and it kind of happens. It's, you know, you'd know it, but I mean, the conversation, you know, Susan, just happens all the time, right?
It almost becomes like a non-event, which is the frustrating thing. Like, I remember certain times coming back, just all the stories where it's like the keys between the fingers and packing a pair of trainers in your bag because you didn't want anyone to hear the clip clop of your high heels.
Wow.
All that's just kind of standard practice. It's just standard practice, and that is absurd. That's standard practice. It's absurd, but it happens so often. Like, you know, I'd be walking. I didn't want to talk about this song, right? And on my last album, because it would have looked really opportunistic. I'm mentioning it now because it's appropriate. But on my last album, on Kitchen Sink, there's a song in there called "Walk." Yeah. That I wrote, and the lyric is, what is it? I haven't listened to it for so long. Bloody hell! I'm gonna have to have a teleprompter. All right, my notes are here. The lyric.
File that, Nadine. File walk. Oh, there you go. Go back to that. What, 2017?
20. Oh yeah, but it was. What did I write? It was like running gauntlets, swerving perverts. Wow. And then the chorus is just, I just want to walk. I just want to walk. And I just keep saying, I just want to walk. And that was about when I used to live in Tottenham, and I'd walk from my house in Tottenham to Seven Sisters tube station, or vice versa. 12-minute walk, if that, you know, like now. But it was like running the gauntlet.
Really?
The journey. And you'd have to, sometimes I'd leave the house and, I'm okay. Someone's just wolf whistled me. I have to go, I'll put some trousers on rather than shorts. And then there'd be days where I'd walk and then no one would wolf whistle. And I'd think, I mustn't look very good today. And I'd go back and get changed because you've been so bloody conditioned to this shite.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, it's a really complex, really fucked up subject, but it happens so often. And I wrote that song because I was just so fucking sick of it. I
Yeah.
was really fucking sick of it. I've got 2 older brothers, right? And I remember my brothers, I mean, like, I've been so jealous of them from a very young age, of the freedoms that they've been afforded that I haven't been.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, because my dad, also my father's Pakistani. So there would be some events that we'd go to when I was younger, and it'd be, you know, women in this room, men in this room. And the men over here are drinking whiskey and smoking cigars, and the women over here are, you know, making chapatis. And I'm like, hang on, I want to be on that side of the curtain, not this one. This is dull, although I'll take a chapati with me over there. And there was that. And then also just the freedoms my brothers were afforded when I was younger. Like, my dad wouldn't worry about them so much. Like, you can stay out later, but I had to be in by this time. And then I remember reading this book. It was Jack Kerouac, On the Road.
Yeah.
And I read it and I was like, dog turd, put it down, was like, rubbish. Because I couldn't relate to this character. There's so many of the literature that I was brought up on is written by men.
Yeah.
About men. And I would get angry reading them because I want to be him, because I wanted the freedom. I would love to. You know, I've never been to a country on my own before. I've never traveled away. I went for work once, but I met people there. But I've never, and I love traveling. I absolutely love traveling. I like going to cinema on my own. I'm perfectly comfortable.
I love
meals.
the cinema. Cinema on your own.
Is there any other way? I'd say I love cinema on my own, and I hate cinema with other people. It's too extremes.
Try having a family. It's rubbish. No, those kids are just, no. I know exactly what you mean. I used to go to the cinema. I mean, I don't go to the cinema on my own anymore. You know, I just don't. I mean, but I used to love it as a single guy. I used to every Sunday night in Oxford, there was this little cinema, and I would just go to whatever was on, and it was, you know, and I go and have a drink on my own at the end, and I love that.
Digest the film.
Yeah, and there's a kind of romance to being on your own sometimes. I mean, it went the other way too. It went, you know, oh shit, I'm a fucking, you know, I'm on my own too much, and nobody. But the cinema on your own, like, I mean, I don't. Again, this is something that's changed, obviously. But I was a massive Woody Allen fan. I loved Woody Allen films, and I know it's like he's obviously an incredibly complex and dubious character, but some of his films are utterly brilliant. And so anytime they would come out, I go and see Woody Allen film on my own, and somehow it felt right because Woody Allen would go and see films on his own in his films.
I've always loved it. I think, you know, I remember when I first moved to London, I was 17, and I say in part that I moved for music, really. But I lived with my brother at the time. It sounds much more romantic on paper. Like, she moved to London at the age of 17.
It's very romantic. It's cool. It's cool as fuck.
Oh, listen, my dad paid my rent, and then I lived with my brother. And my dad paid his rent as well to make him live with me. So I was fine.
Right.
I wasn't struggling. It wasn't a struggle. And but the struggle was that I didn't have friends there. I didn't know anybody apart from my brother. And my brother was so kind. I mean, he's
how much older was he?
He's 7 years older.
7 years older. Okay, so he really is a big brother.
Yeah. And, you know, I was really cramping his style. And he was so generous to me. He would, you know, invite me out with his friends all the time. Every time he was going anywhere, he'd invite me out. And he never made me feel bad about it. It was like, come on, you should come. You'll enjoy this. And I loved it. I loved hanging out with grown-ups. But then it got to a point where I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to be hanging out with him all the time. So I've just lied to him. I'd say, he'd go, oh, do you want to come to this thing tonight? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm busy. He said, you're busy? Well, what are you doing? I'm just meeting some friends. I'm going to go to a thing with some friends. I didn't have any mates. But I'd go to the cinema by myself, and I'd go to it was then called the NFT.
Yeah, I loved it.
Now called the BFI. But, you know, and I loved that.
Oh.
I loved being this mysterious woman.
Yeah. In the centre of town, down by the Thames.
Oh, man.
On the South Bank.
Yeah. And
it's glorious, isn't it?
It really is. That's my favourite part of London is the South Bank and Soho.
I agree. We always used to walk on a Sunday. We used to get up late before the kids and we'd walk to the South Bank. We make the South Bank about 3 o'clock and have a boozy Sunday lunch down there.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
And
It's
there's
really
that
beautiful.
outside the NFT. Is it called the BFI now?
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's the whole National Theatre and the Hayward and the Royal Festival. For any of you people out who don't know London, and just when you come to London, go down to the South Bank and just walk along that whole area. You can walk up to the Tate and stuff. It's just glorious.
yeah. If you want to find Ed O'Brien, that's where you need to be. But you're right though, my love. It is. You know, when there's like things that are really touristy and you're a bit like, oh,
Yeah.
don't do that. I mean, in a tour guide, I would put that at the top. But
Yeah.
as a Londoner, which I kind of became, I'd still go there myself all the time. I'd go to the book market. You go down.
Love the book market.
I mean, you have to walk over the bridge from Charing Cross. You walk over that
Yes.
bridge. You
Yeah.
come down. You walk past the skateboarders. You watch them for a bit. Laugh at someone falling over. You carry on. What's that word? Schadenfreude, whatever it is.
Schadenfreude.
The
Laughing at
mischievous-
someone's misery.
The mischievous
misfortune.
delight of the misfortunes of others. And then you get to the book market and you look
Yeah.
at some things. Yeah, and then you go at the cinema. You have a drink or you have some.
I love it.
Lush.
It's great, isn't it? It's great. We missed that. We're going to get that back soon, hopefully.
You know what? It looks like it, though, eh?
Yeah, I know. It
it's
really
really-
does. It really feels like it. It's funny because I was a little bit, I'll be honest with you, regarding the vaccine. Oh, this is going to be a hot topic, I know, because there's a lot of, I'm not going to stick my head above
Don't
the
get
parapet.
me involved.
No, I won't. I'm not bringing, but here's the thing, and I have my reasons for it. But I was a little bit, when the vaccine came out, I thought, I'm not sure about how long the trials are on this one. And so I was a little bit kind of, reticent about it, open about it. But having had the flipping virus, and, I just don't want to get it again. And anyway, I'm going to get off that because it's a very contagious subject.
Contagious, good word.
Contagious and contagious subject. But so it looks like it looks like less people are getting the virus and dying, and so it would be nice to be out there. Hey, I saw that you've got gigs coming up this year, right?
I mean, I'm not getting my hopes up.
No, when are they scheduled for?
There's a show that I'm really excited about at the Barbican in
Nice.
London. And
When's that?
The Barbican is like one of the most iconic buildings. It's beautiful. That's July the 18th.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think it will. And I'm going to play the album in full from start to finish.
Beautiful.
Because I was like, I'm not going to play. We haven't played that album yet. And I was refusing to play any old shithole.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, Barbican.
That would be amazing. I've seen some, I bet you have, but I mean, it'd be an amazing gig for you. One of my favorite ever gigs was at the Barbican, Asian Dub Foundation. And the place went mental, absolutely mental.
Was it a stud? Was it a stud?
No, but you try keeping the audience down for Asian Dub Foundation. That ain't happening. Everyone just basically legged it onto the stage.
I mean, the only Barbican gigs I've been to are very, very highbrow.
Yeah.
And if I stood up, I'd get kicked out. It's like at the Barbican they do this thing, which I mean, as a performer, I don't care. I mean, I prefer people to be stood up. Yeah. I'm like, if I'm going to stand up for an hour and a half, you can. But if you need to sit, then that's fine. You can sit. But I like the energy when everyone's stood.
Standing.
Yeah, I do prefer. But the Barbican, they do this thing. It's so pretentious. I love it. They do this thing where if you go to the loo during a song as an audience member, if you go out, you can't come back into the room to the auditorium until it's an applause, the end of a song. And so you're stood there. They're like, no, I'm just gonna. I'll be dead quiet. No re-entry. You sneak back in. Oh, it's very.
Have you done any gigs though with seated audiences? Have you done any? I mean, because I would imagine you haven't done many, right?
I've done bloody loads.
Oh right, okay.
I've done so many.
What, are that the early days?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of gigs that I've played at the beginning of my career, really. where people would just, they didn't know my music. They just saw Nadine Shah and they thought, oh, it's a girl. And if it was a festival, they'd be like, oh, it's a girl. So let's put her on in a church. Let's put her in a church. Or let's put her in that town hall. Let's put her in the pretty venue. And I'm like, no, we're really loud. Like, we make a lot of noise. And then they learned the hard way.
Yeah, we're dark.
We're really loud and dark. But and then it was playing festivals that I got a taste for playing music to crowds that moved.
Yeah.
That, you know, were kinetic, and they became a part of the performance.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's funny because we, like, you know, in Radiohead, so the venues that we play, so they usually, you know, they've been arenas, and they never, you know, it always has to be standing on the floor. However, as we get older, there's going to be a moment when suddenly it'll be like the audience is now in their mid-50s and would rather sit for 2.5 hours.
You might want to sit down at some point, love.
Yeah, no.
Not you,
what we used to call it, arse parking. You know, like, yeah, that was a nickname that, you know, if we used to go and see bands who used to sit down whilst they played, that they were arse parkers.
What is like
arse parking?
What is your favorite venue to play? Have you got one where it's like, that's the one because it's how the audience are there, or it's the stage, or it's, what is it?
I'm going to sound like a wanker, but yes, Madison Square Garden.
Oh, you're such a wanker. What a shithole.
What about yours? The Garden. I just call it the Garden. I love it. The Garden on a Friday night. Having said that, let me just say that it is an extraordinary place. It's got this mystique. I know I'm sounding like a wanker.
No. I love you. Yeah. I think you're brilliant. I want to hear what it's like to play fucking Madison Square Garden. So continue.
It's amazing. Because it's also built so well. I mean, it's been remodeled, but when we played it first in 2001, it had all those browns and those greens of the 70s, those lovely colors, real 70s. And it was like, you know, all these iconic gigs, but also a lot of the Muhammad Ali fights. All these occasions happened in the Garden, and it was it was like this cauldron, and it was shaped like a cauldron. It still is. And for me, a venue doesn't matter whether it's big or small. It's about that. I'm sure it's the same with you. It's what happens. It's the energy. It's the movement of energy. And if it's kind of round, then the energy moves a lot quicker. If you've got, like, we played a lot of those kind of big kind of ice hockey and basketball arenas in America. There's lots of corners, there's lots of traps, like even the O2, they're not great venues. So it's things like the Roundhouse. I think the Roundhouse is really good. What would be my favorite in this country? I think I really like the Apollo, Hammersmith.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I really like that. I played that. It wasn't my gig, it was a Mercury Prize.
Ah, yeah, of course.
I played it in the Mercuries.
You were good. I thought you were going to win it that year. It was not last year, it was the year before.
Didn't we all? Love?
Did you think you were going to win it?
No, I like.
Go on, be honest.
Well, I'm obsessed with I love the Mercury Prize.
Yeah.
Every year I get pissed off I'm not nominated, even when I've not got an album out. I'm like, fuck you, Mercury's. It's like, Nadine, you have not got an album out. I'm like, still, fuck you. And I will be raging on Twitter when I'm not nominated this year for an album I haven't put out as well. But I love the history of it. I love that award so much, and I'd always dreamed of playing it at Grosvenor House Hotel. It's where I used to watch it on telly. It was always at Grosvenor House Hotel. So I was kind of disappointed it wasn't there. I was so glad that I wasn't nominated the year where it went to Broadcasting House, which is a beautiful building.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was when, what's his face, Benjamin Thingy won it.
Benjamin Clementine.
He won it that year, didn't he?
Yeah, he's brilliant. But
yeah, he's brilliant.
I was like, I'm glad I'm not nominated this year. Shit party. In the BBC green room, like, oh, this is great, yeah. But the Apollo...
Were you not nominated? You were nominated, right?
I was nominated in 2000 and I could go and get my Mercury Award. No, 2000.
Kitchen Sink was nominated, wasn't it?
Pardon?
Kitchen Sink was
No,
nominated.
no.
No?
And
Okay.
no, Ed. And Holiday Destination.
Okay, sorry. Yes,
That's
that's right.
2018 or 17?
Yeah.
18, I
Your
think.
performance that night was absolutely mesmeric.
Oh,
I have to say, ladies and gentlemen out there, go and check out on YouTube Nadine's performance. It was amazing. And also, I just want to say, I watched that performance of yours with Brett, doing the live, Brett Anderson, doing the live. Wow. Your voice, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, incredible. Incredible. That vibrato that you have, like, how do you do that?
like this.
It's amazing.
I
You're
listened
fully
to
trained, right?
Yeah, well, I had like classical training when I was younger,
Yeah.
musical theatre type stuff,
Yeah.
and then I would imitate people. I've always done this. I don't know if it's kind of my part. The thing is, you can't ask me to do it now.
No, I
But,
won't.
I
Of course not.
impersonate people. I love doing impersonations. Like, I think my two best are my brothers.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know. But I would imitate singers, and I used to imitate Shirley Bassey. I'd imitate lots of men as well. Scott Walker.
Can you do Scott Walker?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, that's the voice that I dream of having, that voice.
I love him.
Amazing, right?
I've started doing it. Actually, lockdown. Is this lockdown 2?
3.
Lockdown.
Where have you been?
Where have I been? But, in this lockdown, I've been teaching myself opera.
Wow.
I mean, YouTube videos and tutorials, and so vocal warm-ups and stuff like that. My voice has gotten stronger since.
Have you been do you do all the warm-ups and everything? You do all of that?
I would never do it at a gig because I'd be embarrassed and I'd feel like a right knobhead.
Wow.
And if my band are all there like tuning strings and I'm like la 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 la, it's embarrassing. You just look like a dickhead. So, but I hum before gigs. I would always hum to warm up my voice. But now, yeah, I am practicing, and it
Amazing.
works. If anyone's a musician or a vocalist, it bloody works.
Well, I've been having singing lessons, and yeah, it really, really helps. But like your voice is absolute. I mean, you know, it just like because I've had to, because I'm now a solo artist.
Oh yeah.
And singing, so I've sung backing vocals, but singing lead vocals, as you know, is so different. And it's literally like getting that muscle going. And it's really, really, for me, it's all about confidence. I just get like I had a singing lesson 2 days ago, and I hadn't eaten anything. And it's online, 2:00 in the afternoon. And my voice sounded like the worst voice that's ever sung. What were we singing? We were singing some Villa Lobos, because it was kind of quite, and it was rubbish.
It was rubbish. Was it rubbish? Or are you just being really tough on
No,
yourself?
I'm not being, I've got a wonderful singing teacher, and she's amazing. And we do Greek songs, because her family from Greece, which I love. I love doing Greek songs. So I play them on guitar and sing. So, and I don't know what I'm singing, but I love the pronunciation.
I was gonna say, you don't speak Greek?
No, but I've always been good, probably like yourself. I've always been good at, like Susan always loves, my wife, because she's a great linguist, fluent in Spanish, French, Portuguese. I can't speak jack shit, but what I can do is I can put on the accent. So like, people will often think, like in Brazil, when we live in Brazil, the kids were fluent because they were going to school. Susan was fluent, yet everyone thought that I was Brazilian because I could put on this kind of, put on the accent. Couldn't understand it.
This is my favourite ever game, or my favourite trick ever. Whenever I'm on holiday, I hate being like, oh, he's one of those ignorant English ones who doesn't speak the language.
Yeah.
So I'll often,
yeah,
like with my partner, I think I'll often just put on an accent and speak English. So it looks like I'm his tour guide when my partner's talking. So if you look over here on your left, you will see this. It's an amazing building. It's so beautiful. And if we go over here, yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. And people are like, oh.
You are really good. Just in that snippet.
I love doing it. I
wow.
really love doing it. But that's, yeah.
Did you act then as well?
I've
come on.
Act up. I've been asked to
Yeah.
act. And no, I don't want to. My brother is an actor.
Ah.
And I don't know. I like the idea of, this is one of the reasons why I've been learning, teaching myself opera, is I'm not a great guitarist like yourself. I'm not like a virtuoso at any instrument, but
Your voice.
I'm a really good vocalist. I'm really bloody good at it. And I want to be the best vocalist in the world, you know?
Great.
So that's what I'm doing there. What did you ask me again? I forgot.
I can't remember, but what I will say is what you have is that you can sing for the rest of your life, and you can do that, and that's an amazing thing. And your repertoire will change as well. You know, you can be, I can't even think of who's like in their 70s doing it, male, female. Well,
Just try and name some females. It's
I
so
know.
difficult. It's, you know what? There's this thing whereby, have you heard? I can't remember what the album's called. Is it called From Both Sides Now? That Joni Mitchell album.
Yeah.
And she revisits songs that she sang as a young woman, and she's a lot older when she's re-singing these songs. And Joni is a heavy smoker, heavy.
Still.
She loves it. She loves it. And you know, it's not the best thing for your voice and all that. But when you hear, there's a song on that album called A Case of You.
Yeah.
And the version she sings of A Case of You when she's younger, I was never really that into. It's very pretty. I didn't really like it. But the version she does of it as an older woman is, it's heart-wrenchingly beautiful. Because in her voice, it's not this perfect, sweet, saccharine voice. It's raspy. But you can hear in that voice that she has lived, she has loved, she's lost.
Yeah.
You hear that in that voice. And I started to think, you know, it's a massive problem that we have, because youth is currency, and maybe women think that they're not, maybe people don't want older women singers. Why is there so few of us? But I started to think about it, and I was like, there are so many older male singers, artists, but so few female older artists, and it's so important that we have them. We need to be able to see these people to tell us, you know, it's going to be okay. Or
well, Stevie Nicks, I've been watching the thing. I mean, Stevie Nicks is an obvious example, and obviously Christine McVie, who's and you know, Kate Bush. I mean, she's not that old, but she must be 60. You know. Somebody said Bonnie Tyler. I mean, Bonnie Tyler's probably still singing, right, somewhere.
Yeah, but, I mean, wait, they've got a few. Tori Amos, somebody said, my favourite.
Well, Tori Amos, she's not that old. She's my age.
That is old.
Old, okay, all right, that's old.
My
Oh my God. That's another thing that I've struggled with this winter. I've suddenly realised, I know age is a funny thing, and you won't have got there yet. And I don't know, but like when you're, how old am I? Am I 52 or 53? I can't. I've got that thing. I think I'm 52. Yeah. I'm 52. But I'm now middle-aged. I'm not young, you know. And for years and years and years, because what one does as a musician, you know, you're young, and it keeps you young, and there's a certain truth that. But I think suddenly the age is sort of catching up.
I mean, my knees are feeling it right now, but that's about it. But I mean, there's certain artists like, I mean, when I say older musicians, and someone wrote there like Bjork, PJ Harvey. No, I'm talking older.
Yeah.
Like Marianne Faithfull.
Faithfull.
Yeah, Lucinda Williams. People like that, you know.
Yeah.
True superstars. But I think I've kind of got it in my head that, because I don't see very many of my contemporaries of older women. And I think I keep saying the same line, so I'm sorry if anyone's heard me say this before, but I can't help but wish or dream for, like, imagine if Amy Winehouse was still living. Now, Amy Winehouse at the age of 60, now that is an album I'd like to hear.
Yeah.
Those are lyrics I'd like to read.
Did you ever see her live?
We were actually quite good friends for a little while.
Oh gosh, I remember you said this. That's right. So you were quite good mates.
I say good friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked in one of my diaries the other day, and I looked at the timeline. We hung out for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but like we'd always go.
But there was a lot going on in that 3-4 weeks.
Oh bloody! I should drink me into the bloody table. He was honestly one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. And I was lucky to see her play live a lot of times.
It's funny because she sort of emerged around 2002, 2003, and then she passed away. What was it? 2007, 2008.
Yeah, she's 27.
27. She made 2 records, didn't she?
No, she made more than that.
Did she?
I think it's 4.
Okay, the ones that I remember
was the first one.
Frank was kind of like that's the kind of the standards, right? Where she was doing all the kind of Tony Bennett-esque type stuff. Was that right?
1 or 2, not many enough. There's one like There's No Greater Love. We used to sing that together as well. But no, on the first album she has tracks like Fuck Me Pumps.
No, really? Okay.
Take the box. There's like really explicit lyrics on there, and I didn't know that a woman could. I didn't know a woman could say. I didn't know a jazz singer could say these things.
Yeah.
And not even that. I didn't know a woman was allowed to be vulgar.
Yeah.
In music, and she was.
She was really vulgar.
She was
great.
Like magically vulgar, with such wisdom, genius.
Because I saw her from so far away, kind of, through the lens of just what her singles were, and maybe seeing on Later with Jules. And and in fact, it's interesting because it's the time when the kids were born, so I was completely sort of in another world. So it was one of those weird things I didn't at the time recognize or know that she was the talent that she was. And obviously it's hugely tragic, but I also didn't realize how many people she touched. I mean, my father loved her music as well.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah. He was like that Amy Winehouse. He'd have a few jars on a Friday night. That's his time when he listened to music, drink and listen to music. And yeah, he loved it. He loved it, and he put the album on back to back.
Yeah, Loretta was an incredible talent.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk about the woman for bloody hours. I mean, our friendship didn't end on good terms. The last thing she ever said to me, Ed, it was, because we can swear on this platform. Yeah. Oh no, I can't use that word. It was
you can say any word. People aren't going to be shocked.
I'll replace the C word with another C word.
Okay, all right. Okay, I get it.
Fuck you, you cow. I'm never fucking talking to you ever fucking again.
Wow.
Because, and I didn't do anything that bad. She had a band that she used a lot, and I borrowed them for a gig. I didn't ask permission.
Yeah.
And I didn't know gig etiquette. I didn't know etiquette back then, but it really pissed her off. And I think she wasn't very trusting of a lot of, especially other female musicians. She wasn't that trusting of. It was quite a bleak. It used to be a much more competitive landscape for female artists, because we were told there's only room for one of us. There wasn't enough room for 2 Amy Winehouses. I mean, I wouldn't have been like Amy Winehouse, but so yeah, the landscape has changed so much now.
Yeah,
there's so much more solidarity, and I think what people are starting to realize is the pie is massive, and there's plenty to go around.
It's interesting, like, when did that change? Because I mean, even I remember like bands, the competitiveness of bands in the 90s. Oh, I mean, it was awful. I remember going to the NME Awards in 1992, and you've got Blur, you've got Suede. It was pre-Oasis, Manic Street Preachers, Us, Boo Radleys. It was the indie kind of. It's the start of the Britpop thing. Yeah. Everyone, no one had a nice word to say about anyone else.
And who were your biggest rivals?
Who were our biggest rivals? Well, we had this false start with Creep, really. And so that was the only good song we had out at the time, and everyone was just like, because we 92, we got signed at the end of 91. 92, we played about 120 gigs just in the UK, opening up for everybody. But that was when Suede broke, and Blur had broken before that, and they were good. You know, Suede came out of the blocks and were brilliant, weren't they? I mean,
Yeah.
all that Metal Mickey, Animal Nitrate, that and the second album, I think, was even better.
Coming up.
Oh my God! No, was that the third one?
Oh, maybe that was after Dogstar, wasn't it?
Dogstar, which with the last track on Dogstar, which is called Stay, which is just one of the great songs of that whole era. So they had their shit together. Blur and Suede had kind of, and we hadn't really got our act together. And so we re-emerged in, I guess, 95 with the Bends. And then Britpop was in full swing, and we stayed away from that. Partly because just the atmosphere, it was all revolved around, you know, it was, you sort of had to be in the gang, right? You had to be in the Jolly Mixer or whatever in Camden, and our
the Jolly Mixer, the good mixer.
Was it called the Good Mixer, the Jolly Mixer? I've never been to the Jolly Mixer.
Jolly Mixer.
And everyone went there, and it was just kind of, I just remember like the difference between when we tour in America, all the bands were so cool. Like we get to hang out, like it was a completely different scene there, you know, and the American bands were like really supportive and really nice, and the British bands like, you fucking wankers, you're shit. And
it was the British press or something?
No, I think it was just like, it was again that kind of, it was like the school playground. I think it was like the time, and I think it's changed now. It's a lot more supportive. The funny thing that I had was, so we come, you know, and you do the festivals and you grow up, and there was never any, I mean, the only people we sort of interacted with were Portishead and Massive Attack, because they were like West Country boys, and we were Oxford, so that's essentially West Country. So we always enjoyed something, but you know, we do all these festivals like the Primal Scream and blah blah blah. And the funny thing is, as I got older, the kids being in London, Bobby Gillespie lived around the corner from us, and Bobby became a mate because he would knock on the door and ask if my boy Sal wanted to come play football with his boy Wolf, and it changes, and you suddenly have this, having been like this bastard, it's suddenly you're standing watching your boys playing football, kicking around, talking about Noam Chomsky, and it's completely
surreal. Around for a cup of sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
But can I just borrow a cup of sugar?
It's so totally like that, Stella Street, and it completely changed. And I love that thing that I think, you know, in what happened with our world is that, you know, the kids take the bullshit out of it. You know, like suddenly there were all these massive egos. Yeah. And then the kids having kids, and then the kids all rocking around together or playing in the park together, and you're like, there's no time for egos. So I've sort of digressed, but I kind of, you know, what feels really nice now is, and that's the thing that I love about Glastonbury, again, is that kind of what Glastonbury does, and like particularly the Park Stage era, right? It's that kind of melting pot. Like, you know, you were there. I didn't see it. I would have come up and said hello to you 2 years ago if I'd known you were there.
I was hiding from you.
You're hiding from me. Yeah. But I love that, you know, a couple of the guys from Idols come up, and, you know, we're chatting. It's that thing, and it feels so different now, right? Isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of love, right? Rather than a lot of...
I love it. I mean, there's still, I think, you know, there's still like...
Who are the standoffish ones? No, we can't say.
There's still some rivalries and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I mean, I find some of them quite funny. I know they're a bit mean, but I find some of it quite funny to watch. When you see it unfolding, you're like, ooh, your popcorn, like, who's saying what about who on Twitter and whatever. Fat White Family and Idols have had quite a famous...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Sleaford Mods and Idols. And then I actually got dragged into that as well.
Did you? You don't want to get caught in anybody's crossfire in these things.
I mean, if you're going to say something about me in the press, you better get it right. You better tell the truth. So they you know, I know. So I've seen that, but you know what? Whenever I've been backstage at any of these kind of things, I mean, I think years ago I'd kind of hoped backstage areas were going to be all like wild, like they were in the movies, like drugs and all that. And you go backstage now and everyone's Skype, they're FaceTiming their kids back home. And then everyone's like talking about the catering, like, oh, you have that catering at Latitude, or catering was great, but did you try End of the Road, or have you tried this quinoa? And I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
This is rubbish.
You should have been at Benny Kassim in 2003 when we were playing at 2 o'clock in the morning and Primal Scream were on after us, and Primal Scream were in the next dressing room, and from 6 o'clock in the evening, it was just like the biggest mental party you've ever heard. And that was just a regular night for them.
I've missed all the parties.
You didn't miss anything.
I've missed all the bloody party. But you know what? I think the way that I picked my band. So my band, I mean, the average age of my band, 50.
They're older, right? They're older, right?
Yeah, probably 50 something. I'm not too sure.
So they're not that old.
No, but the thing, no, the babies. They're sorry.
It's just me. There are these old fellas who like 51, 52.
We'll carry on. And but the thing is, I'd had some younger musicians, session musicians, play with me before. Now they're all lovely people. They're all lovely.
Yeah.
One or two, I lost on the way of a tour. You'd finish your gig. The thing was, when we're playing a gig, and I've got session musicians, it's my name that's in the dressing room.
Yeah.
So if anyone does anything naughty, or if anyone does anything, but I get the blame for it. It's always me who gets the blame for it. It's Nadine, Shah, whatever, and that's the name that sticks. So it was really important to me that I had people that were going to be respectable on tour, who weren't going to go off doing whatever it is. So I've got all these fellas in my band. They're all happily married, or they've got long-term partners. So that, they don't go missing. They're not flirting with none of that bullshit. Oh God, none of that. And they've all, they either drink a little bit or they don't. And it's like they've done all their drinking, and they're good at, if they do drink, they're good at drinking. And they don't go wild.
No, they're just good.
And it's nice drinks.
Yeah.
Look, we'll treat ourselves now and again to a what's it called? It's Ben Hillier's favorite drink. I can't remember the name. This little whiskey cocktail thing.
They're not. Okay, I'll come up with something.
I can't remember. But we'll sit and have a glass of wine together. And I can't be around people that are terrible drinkers, that are gonna be drunk when they're on stage. There's only room for one person who might mess it up, and it's me. And I can get away with it, Like, I'm the only liability in the band.
I always think of your band as it's like the bad seeds. I think like you have your bad seeds. That for me, the perspective from outside, it's like, and dare I say it, I know you, but quite like the way Polly Harvey sets up her band, with John Parrish and everybody. And it's good. It feels like, I think what's really great is I get a real sense, like with your band, is what they do as musicians and maybe their characters and the way their disposition, they give it a real kind of, it's heavy. Do you know what I mean? It's
honestly, the thing I miss so much, I really miss like walking into a festival with my gang.
Yeah.
Like, walking backstage, and there's all these like and I was like worried that people wouldn't think I was cool for ages, and I just got over all that.
Yeah.
And I love like the strength that I feel when I'm walking, or when I'm on stage with those bunch of fellas and we walk in somewhere together. I'm just like, I feel invincible with them by my side.
And you actually, do you feel that when you're on stage, you feel like you've got your gang with you? You've kind of your posse.
Yeah, and which is so difficult for a solo artist who has session musicians, but they play the songs like they bloody wrote them, and
great.
Who was the band that you had with you playing at the Roundhouse? Is that your band?
Yes. Well, no, they were a band I put together for the tour, which was it's a really good question, because I found like, when you're in a band, it's just, it is what it is. But for me at the Roundhouse, so that was the 6th show that we'd done. It was probably the first gig when we started to really bed in. Yeah. But I kind of, for me, it was like, okay, I've got to find the drummer was the first thing. I think for me, getting the drummer right. I always remember Kate Bush in her program notes when she played at Hammersmith Apollo in 2014 or 2015, she said the first musician I had to find was the drummer. And I think that really, so Alvin is from New Orleans, and he's Alvin Ford Jr. And his father was a yeah, and well, what was hilarious was he really wanted the gig, and one of my managers is based in America, and he knew Alvin because Alvin's played with kind of like Trombone Shorty. He's really on the New Orleans scene, and he's played with the Meters and all this stuff. And I wanted somebody who just had that American funk soul thing within. And so he did this YouTube video of himself playing along with 5 tracks that he filmed himself, and it was sent. I remember I got the email sort of 7:30 in the morning about 4 years ago. Another audition, this guy, and I started watching it. The kids were like, "What's that?" And we were watching it, and the kids were at the end of the first song. They said, "This is your drummer," and it was, So Alvin, and it's interesting because his father was a gospel drummer, and for me, what I was interested in, for me, music it's a divine thing, That's what I'm trying to, like, I'm sure I'm speaking the obviously, but I'm trying to get to that place, that place, and I was, the place was what I was essentially making. The lyrics that I wrote, because I hadn't written lyrics before, were really gospel. That's what I was influenced by. But it's hard for a white middle-class guy to write gospel off the top, but I needed to just let it blow up. But I knew I needed to have that spirit in there. And so I had Alvin, and then the others, do you know Hinako Amori? She's the keyboard player.
I think I've seen her play with somebody else. Maybe my
Kate
friend
Tempest.
Ghost Poet. Kate Tempest.
Yeah, she plays with Kate Tempest, and she may have played with Ghost Poet, but she's amazing and
very cool.
Very cool, and Dishan, the bass player. I mean, he's like a serious kind of soul guy with an amazing heart, and he played with Kylie for years, and then Jess Glynn. He's been like a pop guy.
Yeah.
But it was really, for me, it was really interesting to try and put this band together, and it's, you know better than me how hard these things can be. You get into rehearsal, and it's not like everybody starts clicking immediately. We did a run through the year before trying these, and Alvin came over, and that was great. Got the rhythm section, and Alvin and Dishan, the bass player, immediately, your drummer and bass player have to be like locked in. They were like long lost brothers, and it was fantastic. But the guitarist who came in and auditioned wasn't right, and it wasn't because he wasn't good, but it was just, I was like, I knew it wasn't. It was like a sensory thing. But I thought we had 3 days of rehearsals, and I knew within 10 minutes it wasn't right. But I thought, no, that's just me being an arse, And I knew it. Don't you? It's the chemistry. It's a soul thing. It's a soul level thing.
Honestly, it's like long tours.
I like tours.
Long tours, and small vans.
Yeah.
That's the way I used to look at it. I was like, this is going to be my family as well, right? And when I'm on tour, I haven't got anyone else there with me. This is my family for that time, and it's a very personal thing for me, touring and playing these shows. It's and there'll be times where I get really bad anxiety, or I don't think I have depression, but I get down and I get anxious and all the rest of it. This is my family, and I need people I can trust, who aren't going to go and say Nadine Shah does this sometimes, or who does that, and when I say what goes on tour stays on tour, I mean, like, don't tell people I was crying, don't tell people that okay, sorry to interrupt. No.
I just wanted to ask you, so the anxiety and is that stuff that happens, that's not stage fright, that's something more. Does that come from, do you know what that comes from? Do you know what sparks that?
I don't have any stage fright at all.
No, I can't imagine with a voice like that and your presence,
I get nervous. I always want to do a good job, so I get a bit nervous. I get a bit nervous. I'm just like, oh, I hope nothing technical goes wrong, or I hope I do a good job. There's that. But if a bunch of people have come there to see us, I'm like, they're already on your side. No need to be nervous. They're already on your side. But the anxiety comes in. It's always the same. And my band really helped me to try and manage this. It's as soon as I come off stage, and the thing that I hate the most is when people come straight into the dressing room, or they come straight to me, because adrenaline is caustic. It's bloody dangerous stuff, adrenaline. You have to because you've just had this massive high, like you've been on a bloody roller coaster. You need to let that dispel slowly and calmly and responsibly. You've got to be bloody responsible about it. There's been so many times where I've had to come straight off stage and I've been sent straight to the merchandise table. You've got to go and sell stuff. And I'm like, and people, oh, you're great. I'm like, thank you, thanks very much. And then I've locked myself in a room. I've just been crying under a table, and people couldn't find me. I was crying in a toilet.
Oh, well, it's interesting because when you said that, I reckon, and I've learned from my wife, from Susan, because she's a kinesiologist, about adrenal.
What's a kinesiologist?
Kinesiologist it's a way of balancing the body. It's a mixture between the East and the West. So it takes meridians and also chakras, but it also uses nutrition and stuff to balance and supplements to balance what you need. And one thing that I've realized is, and we've realized, so I've been doing this for 4 years, you know, and our whole family go and see our kinesiologist, is that thing of adrenal glands. When your adrenal glands, there's so much adrenaline going through your body and you don't allow the adjustment, that's when you will get, you know, your body will just be, you know, you'll be upset, you'll be low, you'll be all that stuff. And it's kind of like there should be, and obviously the more successful you become as an artist, those things, artists, you know, for longevity, I'm sure the people like the Mick Jaggers of this world, and you know, and the Elton Johns who've been doing this forever, and the Bonos and stuff, they probably have had doctors and functional medicine people said, listen, there are certain things you have to do in order to look after and to be able to do this night after night. And of course, as a young artist like yourself, or someone who's made a few albums, it's only, you know, it's just by trial and error you do it. And it's so important. It's those boundaries and you know, not feeling, I mean, there's this sort of thing about days off as well, isn't there? Days off on tour. People are like, well, you know, you need a day off, especially as a singer.
But if you're working to a budget, so because I pay everyone.
Everyone gets paid.
So I think Musicians Union are trying to bring in a thing whereby musicians have to have days off. Whereas if you're the boss like me, you're like, oh shit, because we try and use up those days off.
I know.
Which is terrible, you know, it's terrible. But with the adrenaline, like you're saying, I think one thing that I used to do was I'm having a glass of red wine now, but I've started to look at how I drink.
Yeah.
It's actually just the past few months since my mum died, I've started looking at how I drink and when I drink and why I drink. And it's, you know, my mum used to say to me before I would go on stage, she'd go, she wasn't a bad mother. Sorry, ma'am. She would say like, oh, you know, Dutch courage. You have, you know, a vodka and Coke or something. You know?
Yeah.
And I've always had that in my head that I have to have a drink before stage. But then you also get used to rituals and routines.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of musicians are very superstitious.
Yeah.
Very, very superstitious. And they're like, okay, I have to have this drink at this time, then smoke that cigarette just 2 months before. And I would drink on stage. And it got to a point where I was drinking on stage and people in the audience, it became an evening with Nadine Shah. They were like, haha, when she's drunk, she's really funny. I'd embarrass myself. I'd be saying stupid things and I was doing a disservice to my craft.
Yeah.
I'd be a drunk idiot on stage and making jokes. I'm not a comedian. I'm a musician.
Yeah.
And I would drink, and then afterwards I'd be so stressed out from the gig, and then another excuse to drink again. And I'd pour drink on the anxiety, like pour it in liters, you know. I was drinking. I had a massive problem. Whereas now it's like, maybe this is why I sing better at the minute, because I'm not doing that heavy drinking. I drink
Well,
wine. I don't drink spirits anymore. I mean, I'm not a bloody angel, but I still drink.
well,
And
I gave up drinking, what was it, 20 years ago? And
I was going to actually, before we started, I was
yeah,
going to say, do you mind my having a glass of red
I love
wine?
it. Because actually, funny enough, in the last 2 years, I've started having a glass of red wine every now and then, which I really love, and I can do it. But it's hilarious because I was telling my dad, because I have, you know, the O'Brien side of the family and my mum's side of well, my mum and the side of the family. There's a history of alcoholism,
Yeah.
and so I used to go off. I remember you know, all the touring I used to do, and I used to get really blue, really down, like back in the mid-90s. And I'd phone up my dad and go, "Dad, I'm feeling," and he'd say, "Have you ever thought about not drinking for a couple of weeks?" Because he gave up booze for a year and a half when I was a teenager, and I saw the difference in him, and it was profound. It was
Yeah.
massive. And he was suddenly, when he stopped drinking, he was very present and engaged and funny and just brilliant to be around. Whereas when he was drinking, I was a little bit scared of him, to be honest. And so I'd stopped drinking on tour, and I'd noticed, oh, suddenly that sort of that weight would go. And I gave up because I knew I had to. You know, I kind of, because you know what it's like. You can, like you're saying, you can drink every single night, and it's a Monday night, you're doing a gig, and you know, and like you're drinking on stage, and
Oh.
yeah, all that stuff. And I stopped drinking, and it was really, really brilliant. I have to say, it was really, it was quite hard, because the worst thing was that the worst thing is actually the people who, because I used to like being the life and soul of the party, and I could only do that when I was really drunk, and I loved making a fool of myself, and you know, people used to, you know, and uh, and then when that disappears, it feels like you've got a sense of humor failure. I mean, I felt like I suddenly became the most boring person on the planet. And there were people, you know, in the band and the management and stuff who were very disappointed that I gave up drinking, because I wasn't going out anymore on days off. I wasn't accompanying them to the bar and staying in the bar till, you know, like the first time we played Tea in the Park, we headlined Tea in the Park in like 1996 on the Saturday night, Glasgow, big Scottish festival, big major. I was out in Sauchiehall Street till 4 in the morning, completely bladdered the night before. And I mean, that was just normal, you know, and we were doing our biggest gig the next day, you know, that we'd done.
You won't be able to, now you're the lead singer. You'll know
You
you
can't do
can't
that.
do that anymore. You
Yeah,
know you can't do it.
only
That,
guitarists can do that.
that's the only tiny bit of discipline I've got,
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
have had, is that I know if I stay up until a certain time, if I'm drinking till 4 in the morning, doing whatever, that the next day my voice won't be great.
yeah,
It'll be actually all right,
yeah,
because I know how to do vocal warm-ups and all the rest of it, but it ain't as good as it should be, and I'll
yeah.
feel like shite, and I'm just going to do myself a massive disservice. But the things you were touching upon there, I mean, I've this is the thing. I wonder. This is a bit serious, whatever, but I wonder what I'd do without it. There's just so much. You know how we were talking before about going to the cinema on our own, and
Yeah.
those associations, and it's the things that I love. There's a certain drinks I don't want to lose, but there's the drinks that I need to lose, because sometimes drink makes me a fool. It makes me act daft. It makes me mean sometimes. I think
Yeah.
I'm being a bit mean, and I hate that. And people around me could be a bit like, is she going to be a happy drunk, or is she going to be weird? I don't know, or sad or cry. But there's the glass of wine after going to the cinema by myself. I love that glass of wine. But it has to be, like you're saying now, you've gotten to a point where you quit drinking for such a long time. You're totally in control of it. You're like, I could have one glass of wine. I would like to be that kind of a person who does that. And that's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do now.
Well, you also I think you meet people along the way who you get inspired by. So when I was looking to do it, it was 20 years ago, and it was in New Zealand. Neil Finn had put together this band, Neil Finn of Crowded House, and my great guitar, the guy who was a guitar hero of mine, he was one of the reasons I play guitar. Johnny Marr was there, and Johnny had been through all of that, and he started off on the no drinking thing, and we talked about, and I saw that he was drinking tea, and I was just like, oh, he's really cool as well, and he's really happy, and he's super engaged and very present, and you know, he's not telling me not to drink, but he's like, when I'm like, we did some gigs out there, when I'm like, you know, worse for wear at like 12:30 at night, he's still having a coherent conversation with somebody. I'm like,
No.
and another thing, I love you.
I remember when I made I made friends with Mark Lanigan a while back.
Oh wow, what a voice, right?
Oh, I mean,
yeah.
And he was saying to me, he's like me pen pal, and he was saying to me that you know, oh, we'll meet up. But I actually supported him at the Roundhouse at one point as well. And then he said, you know, we'll meet up and we'll go for a coffee. And I was like, oh, he doesn't drink. And I was so upset. I went straight to my boyfriend. I was like, bullshit. Mark Lanigan doesn't drink. Not meeting him. This is shite. Because in my head, I'd made romanticized this scenario. Me and Mark Lanigan are going to get shit-faced.
Yeah.
We're going to be best friends. We're going to go to New York together in one of those long bars and be like, yeah. And then Tom Waits is going to come in. We're like, hey, Tom.
Yeah.
I don't, just the association. But actually, having a long, lovely, coherent chat with somebody that I'm going to remember the next day, probably better. You know, it's different. It's different.
And it's also what's interesting. I think what happens is you notice it. It's when you're younger, you can do all these things, but when it starts affecting your art, that's the moment, Nadine. That's the thing. And I think that for me was the big thing. And I think that's the thing with lots of people like Bowie. Bowie gave up drinking, I think, in like 78.
Did he? I didn't.
Yeah, Bowie became like, he gave up drinking and boxing was his thing. His big thing. So the front cover of Let's Dance, he's got the boxing pose. He was like there's a great interview with Carlos Alomar, his guitarist. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about, he's being interviewed around the time of that tour, Let's Dance tour. And they're going like, how is it? They said, it's brilliant. David has got so much energy. He's really happy. He's, you know, and I think when it starts affecting your art, because it does do, there's no doubt that it does do, it takes its toll. And that's when it starts doing that, you go, okay, I need to take note here, you know.
But do you see this thing? Like I was telling you that time where I was on stage and people, I don't know if I got to this part. The audience would put drinks on the stage for me as well.
Yeah.
They'd line up whiskey in front of the stage. And I made a very vulgar joke, but actually it was a really scathing comment. I was drunk and I went, this is what happened. I saw the drinks and I went, this is what happened to Amy fucking Winehouse. And people were like, ha ha ha. Oh. To make them realize, what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
Why? So what I'm trying to understand in my head, what I'm trying to understand is, what is it about us as humans? Like, I'm attracted to, like, you know, do we like the idea of the tortured artist? Do we like the idea of watching a car crash and being close to it, but when they die, we didn't like it? We're not responsible for it. What is it? Is it because it's dangerous? I don't know what it is, but I know for a fact I was upset when, I played a gig with Nick Cave and I heard he was sober and I was like, there's another friend I'm not going to make. Well, we will be friends. We just haven't got a bloody drink. Mark Lanigan again. I'm like, oh, here's all my sober, brilliant friends.
Well, I think it's you know, I think it also goes with youth as well. You know, you think about it like, you know, one of the reasons I started smoking as a kid, because you want to hang out with all the cool, edgy people, all those things. And there is this narrative, and I was banging on about it a bit last week. There is this narrative that you have to be fucked up to make great art. And
boring.
It's so boring. It's just
boring.
It's so not true. And, you know, and certainly gigs, some of the worst gigs I've seen. I mean, I told Bobby, so really interesting. Bobby Gillespie got clean and everything. And I went to see them when they did the 2012, when they did the anniversary of Screamadelica at Olympia.
Me too, yeah.
It was amazing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I said to Bobby the following weekend, Bobby knocks on the door Sunday morning, he said, does Sal want to come and play football with Wolf? I said, yeah. I said, by the way, I said, last weekend, that gig at the Olympia on Saturday night was so beautiful. It was Bobby was like a little boy. He was like, oh, he said, I'm sober. And I said, the time previously I saw you was the Benny Kasim thing.
Oh,
and I was so looking forward to seeing Primal Scream. You know, Screamadelica was a big record, and I liked all the stuff, Extermination stuff. They had a good thing going on. And that gig was so bad.
Oh,
they were so off their heads. There was like, and the problem with drugs and booze is it can stop you engaging with your audience.
It's disrespectful then.
It's disrespectful, but it's like they were playing with this veil around them. And it's like, it's not cool, because what we're doing is, it's a transference of energy. And that communication, you look in the whites of people's eyes and you can see it. And it's deep. And booze and drugs gets in the way of that. You know, a glass of wine, sure, fine, you know, no problem. But it's like when it becomes, you know, when people are just paralytic and you know, people do lots of drugs before they go on set. It's like they're not engaging. They're not engaging.
No, fuck that. I did my first ever sober gig. It was a few years back, and the British Council, I did a gig in Egypt.
Wow.
In Cairo. Yeah.
No way.
Well, you were talking before, my love, and I want to have a conversation with you after or during this. I think me and you should do some gigs together on your solo stuff. But
I'll open up for you.
Oh, yeah, yes, that's the condition, Ed. And then I'll open up for you at Madison Square Gardens. There you go.
Hey.
All right. You were saying before about your love of like Persian culture.
Yeah.
So there's so many parts of the world that I love, and lots because I guess, you know, my father being Muslim, I have a real connection to lots of Muslim countries around the world, and there's a lot of countries that a lot of people won't go to because they're fearful, because lots of other artists don't go there. So the British Council did this thing whereby they were asking artists, would you play here? Would you play here? I played Istanbul.
Wow.
I loved it. And it's my favorite city in the world.
Yeah.
And then they asked me to play Cairo. And so I played in Cairo. And the dressing room, it was this room that went on it was the Nile. I've got this brilliant video of me and my band, and I go from the venue and I just go like this. And I'm like, we're on the fucking Nile, man. It was incredible. But the gig was, I got there and I said, oh, can I have like a whiskey? Can I have this and this and this? I said, oh, it's a dry gig. I said, sorry, what, darling? It's a dry gig, you know, where there's children here. It's an underage gig. It's a Muslim country. I'm like, I know, look, but I've got a rider.
Yeah.
I was like, well, the Marriott Hotel we're staying at just down there, I can get some booze sent over. And they were like, my band looked at me like, and I was like, I look really desperate to get this booze. I was like, oh, I'm fine. Oh, no, I don't need it. That's cool. Dry gig, whatever. I got some tea. And I did the gig sober. And I think that was one of my favorite gigs I've ever played in my life. I mean, there was a bunch of things. I love that I was sober enough to remember that gig so vividly. That there were young women, young men there. There was a young gay man who spoke to me at that gig, and he told me about being a young gay man there and what it meant, what my songs meant to him, and how it was just fucking incredible, mate. And then there was these girls in hijab in the front row, and they all left, and I was like, what the fuck? Oh, they went to the back of the room so they had more space to do dance routines.
Oh, wow.
And I was crying on stage. I was in tears. I was in floods of tears because I was like, here I am, you know. If I was born in Pakistan, what would my life have been? Could I have been a musician like this? Could I do this? And I loved those young girls, and I'm getting teary bloody thinking about it. I loved seeing those young girls in their hijabs, seeing a Muslim girl on stage.
Yeah.
And like that connection there. And I'm so friggin' pleased I was sober for that gig to remember every spot of it, every tiny increment, every little detail, and in solidarity as well. And I did a great performance that day.
Well, I think the thing is, I mean, you're such a powerful performer that, you know, I don't know what it, you know, I actually haven't, I've seen you live on TV, but never at a show. But I imagine, you know, I guess it's something you'll explore more and more, right?
I hope so. I mean, I
Yeah.
want to do, my dream is to play in countries that other people won't go.
Yeah, I'm the
That's
same.
my dream. Oh, well, I thought you would be.
Okay, I'm the same. So where do you want to go to? Where's the number one? Or not number one, but where would you like to go to?
Pakistan will be
Yeah,
difficult, but Pakistan, Palestine, Iran,
yeah,
Istanbul.
yeah.
Oh my goodness, there's so many places I want to go to. Can you think which places you'd like to go to?
Well, I'd love to, I mean, I'd love to play in
I don't
very
like to
much.
play Tel Aviv. If I'm going to play Palestine, I want to play Tel Aviv as well.
Yeah,
So I'm
well,
curious.
it was interesting because we played Tel Aviv 4 years ago and I
Oh yeah,
understand we got a lot of shit and I
you
understand
got
why.
cancelled.
No, yeah, we had a it was Roger Waters and the BDS lot got, it was interesting because for me, what we didn't do right, we should have played Tel Aviv and we should have played in Palestine.
That's what I was going to say.
And
Should have
that's
played
what you have
Palestine.
to
I have
do.
to recognise Palestine as a
Yeah,
state.
and that was our big mistake. And it was amazing because actually I stayed over with my wife Susan and the kids, and there's an amazing Israeli musician friend called David Brozer, who works in East Jerusalem at the studio with his at Sabrine Studios, this amazing studio, and it's where Palestinian and Israeli musicians meet and play and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so I mean, I love that. It's so interesting because I was very lucky when I was young. I went to India in the 70s. My parents had friends and they lived in Delhi. So we were, you know, we were exposed at a very young age to, if you like, you know, obviously, you know, India's a Hindu country, but it was also very much as well a Muslim country as well. Especially then, it was before the whole rise of Hindu nationalism. And I had a fascination with, I mean, I love the art of that part of the world. I love the food. I don't know a lot of the music. That's the other thing. But I'm so interested in part of my journey, my spiritual journey. You always come into Sufism. You know, Sufism is so, because what you realize is that, you know, Sufism, the Christian mystics, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jewish mystics, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
At the source, it's all the same. And I love Rumi. I love the poetry of Rumi. I
Me
mean,
too.
there are times when it baffles me and I'm like, oh, I don't, but there are times when it goes right in, right? And I love that part of the world. And I think there's something, I've been to obviously Israel and Egypt, and I've been to India and the north of India, and I've flown over Pakistan and Afghanistan, and there's something about the earth there, the terrain, that red earth, right? Yeah. And those sunsets in that part of the world, the way the sun is diffused, particularly in the winter, you know, northern Indians, you went to Pakistan presumably quite a lot growing up, right?
When I was tiny.
Right, and the light, and there's something magic in that part of the world that's really, it's really profound. I definitely feel I resonate with that area.
It just stunning. I mean, I just remember another place about Lebanon, Beirut, we need to go to.
Yeah.
But it's just, I went to Pakistan a lot as a child, not a lot, a few times as a child, and the older I got, I didn't want to go anymore because it was, I couldn't be, my mum didn't want to go. So it was my dad and my brothers and then me in a different room. And I felt very isolated, and I don't speak Urdu.
Yeah.
I then fell in love with my dad's culture again, kind of via Sufism. And my favourite music, arguably one of my favourite singers in the whole world, when I say Scott Walker, Nina Simone, people like that.
Yeah.
Abdel Praveen, have you heard her?
No.
I'm going to send you a heap of music, my love.
Right.
Massive Attack covered a song, they remixed a song by Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
Yeah.
Called Must Kalandar, Must. And it's one of the most amazing songs. Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
I love his stuff.
He's incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
I had an album of his with a guy called Michael Brook, and it was amazing
Yes.
on Real World. It was just like, wow.
And then Abida Praveen, she's a woman with a lower voice like me. Now I've
Yeah,
never heard any kind of Asian woman like me with a low voice. I was like, what the? Because I just heard, Indian singers in Bollywood films like really high. And I was
yeah.
like, I don't fucking do that. And then I heard Abida Praveen, a
Yeah,
Pakistani woman, and I was like, what the
yeah,
hell? She's singing in public, and what is this? Just blew me mind, and her voice is incredible. And she was Nusrat was her teacher.
yeah.
So I will send you.
All right.
I'll send you videos, and you've got to watch her sing at the same time.
I will do.
We have to go and play that part of the world.
Come on, let's do it.
Places.
I think it would be amazing to play, and I kind of, I feel like we all know that there's a real underground there as well, and that's frontier touring has always been. I've always enjoyed. I mean, it's not anymore, but back in '94, we were one of the first British bands to tour in Mexico. We were no one. Everyone used to fly into Mexico City, get flying and go out, and we did we played in the provinces and stuff and did a tour, and it was hard work, it's because there's no infrastructure, but it was so memorable. It's so magic, right? It's that thing, and also you're going to places. I always think that when you go to places where life is pretty hard, music is so much more. I mean, everybody in the last year values music and live music a lot more than they did. But say 4 or 5 years ago, what I used to find, here in London, we were spoilt for gigs, right? So,
Aye.
But when you go to places like, I don't know, Colombia or I always found this in Mexico. Have you played in Mexico?
No,
oh my God!
I haven't played outside. Well, that Cairo one in Lebanon, but
there's an audience for you in Mexico without a shadow of a doubt. And what you find there is, again, because life is, it's pretty hard, and and the way that people take the music to their hearts, it's like it resonates even more. And we all love music, but it's that thing when it is life and death,
You were saying about music being divine before, and I completely bloody. If I'm going to have a religion, I mean, I am a Muslim, but music is my religion. Yeah. But it's the beauty of it is the universal. It's a universal language.
Yeah.
And being born to, my father, I don't speak his mother tongue, and I've always found it so frustrating. But a way in to understand his culture, a way to kind of understand him and his religion was through the music, really. And I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what I've signed up for.
But you can feel it.
You feel it. You really feel it. So it's this. I just feel really lucky to have the job that I do, and I think with feeling lucky to have the job that you do comes some problems as well. But yeah, you're lucky, so you shouldn't get paid, but you're lucky. But you're lucky in that
they get us though, don't they?
They
get us because it's that classic thing. It's like we do it for free.
No, don't tell them that. Stop telling them that. Ed.
I know. I said that on the review thing, didn't I?
Yes,
but it was. But
you made a really fantastic superstar. You made a bloody great point that day, and how we're exploited, because you said
that's the crux of it. That's why musicians have been exploited, because when you're playing the music, you're like, this is all I need. And then 5 months later you're like, yeah, no, sorry, but it is true. It's that thing. It's they get, they've got us because it's
so music being universal. I just every now and again I look down at these comments, right, love, and it's just Radiohead fans and Ed O'Brien fans from all over the world.
And your fans.
They are now, because you've.
A lot of people bought your record,
But I know, I love
After, did you see that? No, it's amazing. It's so
good.
There was one comment today. I loved it, saying, "I discovered Nadine's music, and I was going to read it out because it was brilliant. It was sort of like she's something about her lungs or something.
And she's dead fit. Oh,
She's
stop it. But it's so beautiful. Oh, that's love. And I got some bloody lovely. Your fans are bloody lush. But it's just seeing there's like Radiohead Mexico, Radiohead this place, Radiohead
yeah,
place, and there's all, and then from that it's like, wow, Ed O'Brien's got a thing, and it's radio, and there's Ed O'Brien Mexico, and it's just seeing, oh, how music. You know, you have that thing, right? When I played that gig in Cairo, and
yeah,
I spoke to the young boy who stood at the front of the stage, and he sang all my lyrics back to me. I thought, how the fuck? And I spoke to him afterwards. Did I ever think, when I'm sat on my bed cross-legged, did I
yeah.
ever
No,
think when I
it's
write this
amazing,
song,
right?
there's going to be a young lad in Cairo. He's
Yeah,
going to hear this song and it's going to help him on his journey. He's going to, did I? Oh, you just find this
but
bloody bonkers and
this is,
incredible.
yeah, and this is why what we do is service. This is what we do. I really think it's like, I'm at the moment, you know, with the kids being 15 and 17, the most important thing I'm saying to them and trying to, and they're getting bored of me saying it, it's like the most important thing you can have in life is integrity and good intention. And the rest of it will take care of itself. And it's exactly this. I think one of the reasons why, you know, Radiohead is how it is, and I am how I, and we've been lucky to be doing this for a really long time. It's because it's been about integrity, and it's not rocket science. It's like, and it's amazing because you're doing it because it's important, and you're doing it as a service for other people. It's not like, you know, how many bands and how many artists have fallen by the way because suddenly the focus shifts from making great music or doing great shows to maximizing income or living a rock
Yeah.
and roll lifestyle. And it's not, and then the muse will desert you, because the other thing is, and this is kind of, we're kind of like conduits for this stuff to come through. We are doing it, but it comes through us. That moment of inspiration, you know, this is the thing. It's like it comes through you. It's like we're like catching these butterflies. So that's the divine bit. That's why, you know, Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin will go, well, you know, it's God. You know, we just, you know, I'm reticent to call it God because God has all these awful religious connotations of the guy with the big beard, but it's the force. It's divine. It is a divine thing, and you have to honor that. And you know, and that's what you get in. That's what divine music is. You know, the Sufis and Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. The intention and is right, is pure, and that's what you have to. Of course, it's not always like that. It's not quite simple as that. But I think that's the key thing with music, and I really think that that's the important bit, you know. Yeah. That really is the important bit, and that's the bit that and you're always allowed to get derailed, and you can go off on little tangents, and we've all been there, but you come back to that thing, and it is about, I think it's like when you're writing the music, you're serving the music, you know, it's service to that music that's coming through. How can I do the best that I possibly can? How can it be when you get to the end of a record and you've got 10 songs, or you've got a 10-song record, and 9 of them are to a place that you got them and 1 isn't? That integrity means this album's not finished. You know, I'm going to have to go and finish that 10th song. It's got to be. It's like you have to see things through to the end. You have to see it with the proper intent. And I don't think it's rocket science, but because I think the people who do that are the ones who stay around, you know, and you can feel it. You can feel when an artist does that. And I think what I feel so lucky about with our audience is if we suddenly sold out or suddenly did, you know, I don't know, you know, selling out in the big way, you would notice in the music and you'd feel it. And there, of course, there'd be a lot of people be forgiving, but I think people recognize the integrity of the whole thing. And that is always my when I do mentoring or go and talk to music students, that's the thing that I try and get over. You know, be yourself, but be your heart, and do it with integrity. And what's your intention here? You know, and it's everything. And if you do that, music's so fucking brilliant, because music's the biggest bullshit detector. If you do that, it falls in your way. you know. But if you don't do that, it'll trip you up, and you know when an artist is not doing it for the right reasons, you know.
Honestly, conviction is like a rat, and you can smell it a mile off.
You can indeed.
Okay. And
Yeah.
exactly what you're. I'm just sat here going like, I love what you're saying, because honestly, it comes in spades with what you do. It comes in spades every time. I mean, I've seen your band play, but I haven't seen your solo band play. I've seen your solo band on telly, and even that, I was thinking, I wonder what I'm going to think about this. But it's like, okay, yeah. And I saw what I loved when I saw your solo performance. I saw somebody who wasn't in Radiohead. I saw someone who was starting from the beginning.
Yeah, I was.
And it was honestly, it was just, I was like, I can't imagine you come there with some kind of not arrogance, but confidence, like, I'm a fucking Radiohead, mate. Meh. But it was just, and I think as an audience member, there's the conviction and there's the integrity that you're talking about there. And it's the respect for your audience and the respect for the art, where you're like, I'm unlearning and relearning.
Yeah, and it is
so
like that.
Lush to see, honestly. Well, it's so lush.
That was my thing. It's like I have to like, my whole mantra has been the last 3 years, what is my truth? What is your truth? And it's a really, 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 I know it sounds like a big, like a simple, it's a very profound question, because we can spend a lot of time in our lives not actually acknowledging what do we really feel here. Especially the way we grew up, because we weren't allowed to. Anyway, but that whole exercise for me, I knew that it's like when you start, there were so many episodes, and I look back and like, I just want to do that, like, oh no, you know, like you do when you, but I knew, as like stepping out the Radiohead thing and starting on my own journey, that you have to do that, because that's the only way you learn. So, you know, it was this weird thing within Radiohead for years and years and years. You sort of like not construct, but definitely at the beginning, it's constructing this illusion. Like, this is this music, and it's, you know, we're like this kind of certain thing. And I knew that had to, I couldn't go out and do that. I had to be me. And so in order to, it's a bit like standing naked on the stage. I had to, like, here I am, you know, and it was, yeah, it's so kind of you to say that. I'm sort of, I am like going like this, like, oh, you know, but I have to do that. And one thing that you know, I cancelled the touring for this year because I knew I wasn't in a place really to, but next year, I just want to get to that place like you've done, and it'll take me a while, but just to learn your craft and just do it, right?
I think our albums came out at a similar time. There wasn't too much time between our albums, so you're maybe going to be touring next year.
Yeah.
I bloody hope so. Bloody hope so.
Well, likewise. I mean, I can't wait to. Do you know? I was thinking today. I'll finish on this note. I thought, because we haven't actually met in person, and like when we meet, I'm going to give you the biggest hug. The biggest.
I'll still be hiding behind my friend like I did at Glastonbury. I was like, oh, that's Ed O'Brien. I'm like, no, too shy.
You're quite tall. You're quite tall as well, aren't you?
I'm 5'10", yeah.
Yeah, you see, I'm 6'5", so you're just going to get like this big hug.
I used to fucking hate hugs. Apparently, I'm a really shit hugger.
Are you?
But then I saw a dear friend of mine, and I was desperate. I was so desperate to hug her, and I couldn't. I'm like, I dream about hugs, not for now.
I love that. I'm just such a shit hugger. I'm a really
shit hugger. A sugar.
A sugar. All right. I'm gonna love you and leave you.
It's been so bloody lovely talking to you.
It's always
lovely, gorgeous Bonnie lad. I'm going to send you
gorgeous
some
woman.
music. I'm going to send you some Sufi music by Abda Paveen. Your lot here that are watching, I see little comments now and again. What a lovely bunch of buggers you got.
They're lovely, aren't they? We do this every Thursday night.
You bring everybody in. It's so.
Well, it's nice, isn't it? It feels good. It's a lovely thing. It's really helped me during my time being in the hole. It was like my part of the week when I could, like, you know, yeah. So it's great.
Oh, it's so lovely to talk to you, bud.
Lovely to speak to you, Nadine. Thank you so much for doing this. You're such a star. Such a star.
Stop it. All right, my love.
All right,
Take
darling.
very good care, and I
Yeah,
hope
you too.
to see you soon.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Take
Bye,
care.
buddy.
Bye.
How do
Bye,
I do?
everybody.
I don't know
Thank
how
you.
to leave.
Yeah.